quick content warning. This episode contains mentions of suicide, depression, violence and death of young people, as well as mention of homophobia. Hi, and welcome back to Queerly, a podcast, where I, Jacqui, and my co-host Liz typically talk about LGBTQ+, and mental health representation and depictions in media, and sometimes just stuff we want to talk about. Today's one of those days. I'm doing a bit of a solo episode going over Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 2, which is episode 8 and 9, so of course if you haven't seen those, huge spoiler warning. Also, that little jingle at the beginning, we're trying some new things out. We'll see what happens. I'm not fully pleased with it yet, but I threw it together real quick. Thought it would be nice to have something, Alright, so also wanted to remind everyone that if you have a topic that you'd like suggest or just comments you'd like for us to see, you can head on over to queerlyapodcast.com, and we have a contact form there, and so it doesn't record anything, it doesn't take your email or anything. You can literally just put in whatever you want, and then we'll be able to see it. There's also some lists of future episode topics there if you'd like to look at those, as well as access to all of our episodes on different platforms. And working on a bio section. We're getting there. Alright, so last warning for anyone who has not yet seen episodes 8 and 9 of Stranger Things Season 4. Or, I guess they call them Book 4, Chapter 4? I don't know. They call them something different. Okay, so I went through and rewatched these and took notes. So, first thing I want to do is just say how amazing these subtitles are. So I'm one of those people who, when I first watch something, if it's in a language I understand, I don't watch it with subtitles just because I am one of those people who likes to really, try to look at all the details and stuff that are on this actual screen. And with subtitles, even though they don't pull my full attention, it does pull my attention in terms of I will look at the text immediately before they're finished talking about it, or I'll miss some small things because of it. I also just like to see the frame unobscured, I guess, because, I'm pompous. So I first watched it without subtitles. Then, upon rewatches, I almost always will watch with subtitles just to see if there's anything I missed, or if I heard dialogue wrong. And the person who did, and this is for the entirety of the season, of Stranger Things Season 4, these subtitles were amazing. I mean, there are plenty of posts and stuff about this, but I wrote down some of the ones I really liked and thought were either disgustingly accurate or just really funny. Here, let me go on through my notes. Here's one. Delicate yearning music. We got sinister industrial synth music, which is my new band name. We have hold on. Disconcertingly jaunty music. We have intense industrial synth music, ominous percussive music, dire choral vocalizations, ominous dirge, hand unfurls creakily, sinister vocalizations. Oh, this one's probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite. Icarus tentacles constrict. Oh, so good. And very accurate to the situation. Dissonant gibbering. This one I was surprised was in there. It was, so without getting too into it, because I'm going to do that in a tiny bit, that was when Dustin is running out and Eddie's being attacked by the bats. He hears dissonant gibbering. Then we have plaintive piano line, flesh rending, menacing audio distortions, We have Nightmarish Howl. We have... I think, actually, nope, that's all the ones I wrote down. There are so many more. There's a great post, I forget who it's by, on the subreddit, where it's all the variations of just synth music, and there's probably, like, at least 20. It's amazing. So, first of all, that. And then, just in general, acting is top-notch, as always, especially from, I mean, not especially, but the adults, they're well-established people at this point in the industry. Like, that they're going to give a great performance. So David Harbour, Winona Ryder, everyone, yeah. And there's, I gotta specifically say, with Natalia Dyer, who plays Nancy, I had watched an interview with the Duffer Brothers about why they had one, or Vecna or Henry, basically give exposition to Nancy out of all the characters, and they said essentially because Natalia is such a good facial, like, emotion actress. And it's true, if you keep an eye on, like, her facial acting throughout the show is amazing. Like, you can read the entire thought process that's going on in Nancy's head, as well as all the little nuances just from her facial expressions and eyes. It's crazy. Okay. Some other general little things. I'm a New Englander, so, I'm used to, like, hot, humid weather or really cold and dry weather. Yes, I was adopted from southern Vietnam, so, that more heat. My body doesn't like the heat, but, I'm equipped for heat. However, look at the outfits that all of the kids and Joyce and stuff are wearing while in California. It is spring break, so fair. It's a little chillier. Then they go into the Nevadan desert, and they are all still wearing pants, long sleeve shirts, and outerwear, including, like, not like windbreaker outerwear, like actual, like, sweaters and jackets. And I don't understand how anyone does that. That is horrifying to me. Like, how are you not? I was yesterday here. It was really warm. I was outside, like, biking for like an hour. I actually might have gotten some mild heat stroke. Lesson learned. But I was sweating like I went to a water park. Like, I don't understand how y'all on the West Coast are fucking nutty. Okay, and then let's see, any more? Oh, another general thing. For some reason, I thought the Demogorgon, like, this whole time, was kind of a dark gray, like, slightly more reddish, fleshy, color. I think because of the lighting that they use, because in the earlier seasons, especially, you only see it in darker lighting, in part to help with the tone that they had then, as well as because it was on a much tighter budget, and so lighting lends a ton to the look of CGI and how convincing it will be. So I guess that was the case, because when they first described the monster as, like, white-skinned in the Russia bit, I was kind of confused, and then I saw it and I realized I'm just stupid. Alright, so I guess we will get into more specifics. So I'm just going to go through my notes, essentially going from the beginning of episode 8 into episode 9. So these were taken in chronological order. I don't think there's really a better way to organize them, so that's what we're doing. Okay, so first of all, yeah, the pacing already has been kind of weird from the Russia end of things. In terms of, like, the way they've been doing the plots this season, I'm not a huge fan of how they're handling all of them and the pacing of each one. So I think it stems from the fact that the Hawkins plot is very obviously the main plot. It's the one that's dealing with the main obstacle of the season and ties into the previous seasons the most. But the thing is, with the Russia and California subplots, or plots, I guess, while they on their own are good, they don't at all relate to the Hawkins ultimate plot, you know? So they're not working towards, even if it were, let's say, in California, if Elle had learned about the issues going on in Hawkins and gotten to Brenner's lab earlier, before, I think it was episode 5 or 6, that would have helped a lot for that pacing, because it feels like before that, you know, you have people dying in Hawkins, and yeah, you have Jim Hopper is in Russian prison, which sucks, but, like, with California, Jane L, she kind of roller skated a girl in the head, but it doesn't feel as life or death, since, you know, there's no people getting killed in that one, so it just feels it feels like the pacing kind of came to a halt at times with that. And the Russia plot, I know some people really liked it. I think if it were its own show, it would be great. I think, it's just not the type of story that I really come to Stranger Things to watch, I guess. So I always got kind of bored with it. I honestly, during some of my rewatches, I just skipped fully through the Russia plot. Until at least like the last 2 episodes for Volume 2, because that's when Volume 2, I will say, it has a bit of a leg up on Volume 1 in terms of the, in some parts, the pacing, because all 3 plots are converging. They're all working toward the same main end goal, which is nice. So it helps when it cuts to a different plot, from one plot to a different plot, and you don't feel as though everything's come to a halt, because you are now seeing another team on just another side of the same battle, essentially. But yeah, Russia, I'm the type of person who fell asleep during Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. I mean, I enjoy myself some, like, espionage spy stuff, but I'm not a huge fan, nor am I a huge fan of things like, why can't I think of the name right now? It's not Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's no Shawshank Redemption. That's what it is. So I'm not a huge fan of those types of movies. So I think it was more just personal thing, though I know a lot of people kind of felt the same. It also just dragged on for a while, I think. Though the new characters that they introduced, I like a lot. And you have the guy who played the Faceless Man, or one of the Faceless Men in Game of Thrones, so that was it was weird seeing him. At first I wasn't sure if it was him, because the hair is so different, but then once you, like, isolate just the face, you can tell. Okay, and then going on from here, the scene with Will in the back of the van with Mike, that, oh my god, my heart, like, holy shit. I wish they had given more scenes in Volume 1 for Noah Schnapp, who's Will's actor, to kind of show off his chops like this. And same with Mike, who's played by Finn Wolfhard. I just wish they had more. They didn't feel like really full characters in Volume 1, I suppose, or at least not to the point I would have hoped. But here they definitely, they feel like they are their characters again, essentially. And, oh, you feel the pain. You feel the pain in both Will's voice and face when he's talking about this stuff, obviously referring to the fact that he's feeling all of these emotions and has felt these emotions for Mike, rather than it being Elle, which is his excuse. And honestly, like, I know that, and I'll talk about this more later, I know that some people aren't happy about the way that the quote-unquote coming out plot has unfurled. This part, I actually am okay with. I like that it is showing this obvious, like, it's obvious sort of emotion in a way that's not, it doesn't feel forced. Like, a lot of coming out scenes feel really forced, because it's like, oh, we have to put them in a position where they will have to blurt it out, either because they're being pressured, or they are basically being forced by the script. I don't know, that's how I felt about a lot of them. But the one here, I think the fact that Jonathan notices is really good, because that leads up to a talk that I'll go on more later in the second episode. But I'm okay. I'm okay with the way that they've portrayed Will on that side. I do have slight worry about the lack of it being explicitly romantic attraction, because of, as I've previously mentioned this in some other episodes, but basically, if you don't explicitly say it, it means that those who disagree with or condemn that type of behavior can basically say, no, it doesn't exist here. You are just pushing your agenda onto it, essentially. And that can be really harmful. But it also is kind of, in this case, I feel like good writing. I mean, it's hard balance to strike, you know? But we're gonna move on there. The score. So I'm a big music person, as well as like technical side of things person. And so there are some certain pieces from the score of Stranger Things, all seasons, that you can actually pick up on recurring here. So the motifs and everything. So in that scene with Will, there are some motifs that almost sound like a mix of Eulogy, which is a piece originally used after Bob's death in season 2, and then the kids theme, which is now in season 4 labeled as Teens. And so I think it's kind of, it's symbolic of what's going on, the change from when they were children, and again calling back to that scene where Will and Mike had the argument about not being able to just stay kids, and the whole "it's not my fault that you don't like girls" thing. And the eulogy, obviously, it's kind of like death of childhood, you know, and having to be exposed to the harshness of growing up. So I thought that was really good use of score. The young Elle CGI, I'd say it looks pretty good. I think the thing that limits it and makes it look a tiny bit wonky at times is the fact we have seen a very young Millie Bobby Brown in the first season. So we do know what she looks like then. I mean, obviously here she's a bit younger than she first appeared in the show, but like we know what she looked like. So it's a little strange for the eye. But it still looks pretty good. There are like very few moments of floatiness with the head and everything in the face. The whole, when Brenner is talking about chiseling of the dam, they really didn't need to do that whole thing of like him taking a pencil and saying, oh, if there's enough holes it builds a pressure, and then when there's too much pressure it breaks. Like I feel like enough people know what chiseling means, and Elle's in high school and in many English classes. She should know what chiseling means, and even then they could have just said, basically, instead of having to take the time do that whole thing with the pencil, just said like, I don't know, and once he chisels away enough the dam will break, because that's enough context. People know what you're talking about. That just kind of that irked me a little bit. Oh, okay, so here's one. The way that they now depict the in-between space that Elle goes to, I really like in this episode, when the Hawkins gang are all together in, I think it's Max's trailer, and they are planning, and then Elle basically not spies on them, but checks in on them, and you see in this shot, and I think it's the first time we've seen this in any of the in-between space shots where there is a phone on the wall, so it's in vertical space, but obviously it's not attached to anything in the in-between space because everything is just dark and watery on the ground. So the fact that they show Max interacting with it and Elle kind of like walking around it is pretty cool. As well as, and they've been kind of doing this they've been doing it a tiny bit in Volume 1, but Volume 2 they really upped their game on it, where the natural lighting of wherever the people she's looking at are, is the lighting you see on them in that in-between space, which I think is pretty cool. So like if the lighting outside is dusk, you see dusk light is on them despite everything around them being black, which I think it's pretty cool. I just bumped the mic. I'm very sorry. Sorry if that hurt your ears. But yeah, so I really like that. And I like the way that they do that in-between space, like the way that they control the reflections, or I guess probably somewhat CGI for the reflections, but the way that they do them is always really pleasing to the eye to me. Okay. And then, yeah, I just have a note with the Hawkins plot being more focused in Volume 1 or other plots tied in earlier. I already kind of talked about that. And then, yeah, I made a note. I'm happy that Elle shows legitimate concern for the Hawkins gang and Max, kind of building off of that whole friendship arc, I guess, just friendship development that they had in Season 3, because, I mean, like, I feel like before they didn't really think about Hawkins people that much, or mention them, so I'm happy to see the concern there, as well as, like, acknowledging the fact that, yeah, Max and Elle have, like, a tight friendship. They're each other's, like, only friends who are girls. Like, yeah. So, that's nice, at least. More about me complaining again about Russia. Alright, we'll move past that one. Oh, yeah. Small detail, just, like, I guess, hair and makeup department doing a really good job in being so detailed with, as the season progresses and action intensifies and everything, the hair of basically all the characters affected gets more and more disheveled and almost looks more dirty, because they don't have time. Like, especially in the last, like, 3 or 4 episodes, they are running around for, like, 2 straight days. Like, they don't have time to go home and shower, so I thought that was a cool detail. And then the setting up of the Winnebago, which is that trailer with the W on it, that we saw Nancy trying to interview the owner of in Volume 1, so little Chekhov's gun pays off with them stealing it in Volume 2. And a little detail I liked was, instead of saying "God damn it" when the owners of that trailer are running after them, they just say, the woman says "God bless it." I don't know, I thought that was fun. Like, satanic panic time, I think that's perfect. And then, oh yeah, another small, like, writing detail I liked, when Elle is telling Owens about the whole Hawkins situation and trying to get him to let her go back there and help. She mentions Max, and Owens assumes that Max is a he, so says he, blah blah blah, and then Elle almost immediately corrects him, saying she. I just thought that was a very good, nice detail. Especially because at that point, the use of typically, or not, you know what I mean, like social norm for it to have been a male name given to a female name wasn't as common. And even now, like, a lot of people don't find it super common. I mean, I'm an enjoyer of that kind of name. But yeah, and then I guess I'll talk about this now, sure. Owens and Brenner mention, I think it's really Brenner who talks about it, mentions Vecna basically consuming everything he takes, including memories. And so that immediately got me thinking about season 5 possibilities. Because he's now consumed Max, who's part of the party. So all of those memories are going to be his. He has access to all of them, and how that might affect his actions and ability to attack or manipulate the main party. So I thought that's interesting. There's a great meme that's been going around that, because Steve has this little thing when they're in the Winnebago with all the kids and stuff saying, oh, I had this dream about a big family, 6 little nuggets, and going on family road trips every summer. And later on in volume 2, he tells Nancy that the dream always was to have that happen with her. And there's a great meme going around, which, I mean, it isn't even a meme, it's the implication of Steve basically saying, Nancy, I want to impregnate you 6 times, which I just find funny as hell. Jesus Christ. And then, okay. So, I know there's been some discourse about Max's plot and her basically setting herself up as bait for Vecna in Volume 2, and it affecting her story arc and metaphor and plot in Episode 4, which was, I'll remind you, which was Dear Billy, which was when she thought she had only 24 hours left to live. Vecna tries to attack her, the whole running up that hill sequence, everything. I personally think that it still works. I think both of those, events, they're not exactly arcs, both still work together, because with Episode 4, it's more of like, it is still more of that metaphor for depression and grief and everything, and so that obviously is still very powerful. And then here, it's, the whole idea was, it's a sacrifice for those she loves, but without the actual intent of death. I mean, obviously death is a risk, but there's no intent on her part to die. I think it's pretty obvious, and she ultimately, and I guess I'll go into this more in when I get to Volume 2, or not Volume 2, Episode 2, quote unquote, so Episode 9. But she ultimately has to embrace and, in her words, run to the light. Even if it doesn't work, it is basically her embracing the support and love of others to help her through what is going on in her mind, literally. So I think it still works. I mean, I think it's, because you have the metaphor part, which I think still works, and then you have, obviously, just the story progression that has to happen. So I think they can work in tandem. And then, okay, Lucas and Max, even if they're straight, they're adorable. I love their chemistry together. I think it's, Caleb McLaughlin, and Sadie Sink have adorable chemistry. I don't know, they're just very, very cute. And then, I have a note, Warzone, the place they go to get all the guns and equipment before the fight with Vecna, reminds me a lot of some places I'd gone to in Montana while visiting family. The family there is much more conservative, much more pro-gun than my family on this coast or on the West Coast. But it was very accurate to some places in the U.S. then and even now. And then that scene with Robin in the in Warzone when she sees Vicky with her boyfriend, I thought was done pretty well. I mean, obviously, super, super painful, and like you feel it secondhand when Robin runs away. But I like that, first, she's never put in a position where she's pressured to come out, and she's never outed by Steve as the only other one who knew. And Steve is amazing in terms of supporting her, like her romantic endeavors as well as just like keeping that secret for her. There were a few times in Volume 1 where Nancy was asking about him and Robin to Steve, and Steve basically said that, oh, I'm not her type. She's not my type. Not actually saying that she's a lesbian. And I thought that was really well done, and I like that a lot. I also like that Vicky doesn't imply or out Robin to others, or she doesn't in that scene, like, at least from the acting, doesn't seem to find it exactly like weird or off-putting that Robin was looking at her like that. She didn't turn to her boyfriend after and say something about it, or imply something like about Robin being like creepy or whatever. She just basically said, "Oh, it's someone I knew from band," and I also really like, because the last thing we need is another plot where it's the 80s and all these people are going to want to lynch this gay person, you know? And then, Jason's actor is amazing this season, honestly. His descent into madness and everything, I think he did a great job. And it's clear through his acting as well that while the character obviously is being prompted to do things that are horrible and just not listening to the main characters, you still see that it is rooted in a misguided attempt to help and avenge Chrissy. I feel like he was the human embodiment of traditional American, like, good intentioned satanic panic. Because a lot of people who do even now have satanic panic going on in their lives, it's not out of malice exactly. It's that they believe that is what's happening, you know? And so, I mean, it doesn't excuse his actions at all. No, it doesn't. But also, it makes it so he's not just like, oh, I'm gonna go shoot this kid. You know? It makes him more of a three-dimensional character. Argyle, this might be controversial. I didn't find Argyle super funny in season... Well, I found it... No, so, that's a lie. I found him to be funny in Volume 1, but I just thought he was on screen too much. His bits just could go on for too long at times. The bits can initially be funny, but then if it's dragged out too long, then it loses that potency. And you see less of that in this volume. And the bits that he does have are really good. And then this is always so this is like more of a I guess this is probably due to COVID, but also just aging. Dr. Brenner being called or referring to himself as Papa with how old Millie Bobby Brown, who's Eleven's actress, looks now makes me so uncomfortable. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I mean it is an unhealthy relationship going on between them. But I just found it kind of funny and interesting. And I'm happy that won't be happening anymore because he's dead. But you know, not the actor. Modine should live for a long time. Who's the actor? And then, alright, my next note is for the prepping scene. So this is for Hawkins when they are putting nails in the trash can lid, sawing off the shotgun, getting the Molotov set up, getting the spears set up. It reminded me a lot of Infinity War, where you go in knowing there's going to be losses. You know that despite doing everything they can, the people there are they don't have enough firepower. They're underprepared despite preparing to the most they could, you know? And I think that's a perfect tone for them to set going into the finale. And And it's also a reminder that all of them, even if now they look older, all of them are meant to be essentially like kids or young adults, like, because the kids and so they're supposed to be like freshmen in high school. So think back to that. And then the older ones, Steve, Nancy, Robin, they're supposed to be like high school seniors or a year older, so like 17, 18, 19. So they really are young. They're facing all these things so early on, you know? So there's that. Brenner finally biting the bullet. I'm happy about that. The way that they did the scene I thought was good, with Elle's denial of Brenner's plea for her to tell him that she understands why he did what he did. I thought that was good to show her development out of the mindset that allowed for the unhealthy relationship to continue. And then I just have a note here, because in that scene when they find Elle and she just crashed that helicopter, you see so many dead bodies on the ground, and I just have a note saying, Argyle has seen more dead people in 2 days than most serial killers in their lives. And, I mean, I think that is a point that could easily be argued. And, it makes sense why he'd be stoned out of his mind for the next episode. And another point with Brenner's death, actually, is that aforementioned score, a motif called Eulogy, isn't played for Brenner's death, which I think is appropriate, that they didn't use it, because it has only been used essentially when a character has died, or is a dead character is being talked about who was heroic in some sense, basically. So it was played obviously after Bob died, saving everyone in the lab, season 2. Season 3, it was played after Billy's death, who had just saved Elle and it's played after Billy and Hopper's death, both of whom ended up acting in a way to save all the kids and Hawkins and everything. And then season 4, it's played during Dear Billy, when Max is reading her letter to Billy, which, again, is appropriate. So it wasn't used here, again, to emphasize the fact that he's not... Yeah, his last action may have been in the service of saving Elle, but he wasn't really heroic or doing something for the good of the world, essentially, or the good of Elle, because it ultimately, his relationship with her is one of possessiveness and control. Even if he did to some level love her, it wasn't the healthy or true love of the person themselves. It's what she was capable of and what she represented to him. So I like that detail a lot. Alright, so this is the last one I have for episode 8. So Separate Worlds being a perfect choice of song for the last, I think it was like last 2 minutes of the episode. And the only thing I really have to talk about here is the timing. They time perfectly. I think it's Lucas, Erica, and Max stepping out of the Winnebago to the song itself to go with a set of 3 lyrics. So I thought that was just well done, and probably took a little bit more coordination than anyone would think, just because you have to get it so that looks natural but also lines up with a song, because it's a single shot, meaning that it's not edited to be like that. It's literally just they had to time it out so that it would match up in the moment. So that's episode 9. Nope, episode 8. I skipped a page. we'll do a little brief break right now, I guess, between episodes. And talk about something random. This will probably only last for like a minute or two. I had acquired a Walkman that was basically the same model as the one Max uses. I also got the headphones because I am a person who spends too much money on things that I connect with. But at least I've gotten a lot of use out of the Walkman. That was until, well, I still can get use out of it, but that was until it was 2 nights ago. I had a night class, so I had used it. I usually put the actual Walkman in my backpack, and then the headphones have a very long cord, so I'm able to listen to it. And I put it on my desk next to my computer during the class, and at one point, I moved my arm or something, and the Walkman fell to the floor, and the bottom half of the shell, so like the plastic outer cover, basically exploded into like 20 pieces. I had never felt so just such like despair about a single item in my entire life. Because I couldn't even fix it then and there. I still had like an hour and a half of this class left. It was like 8 p.m. at night on a Monday. It's like I don't want to be here. I just want to fix this. It's my only source of music for getting home and for like my 15-minute bike ride. But luckily when I got home, because I had kind of messed with the internals, wiring and everything, I checked that and it was still working. So everything on the inside of the Walkman's perfectly fine. It's just the outside that's not. So I went through the process of super gluing everything back together and then doing it again because the batteries pushed part of the shell too much to where it basically broke off. So I re-glued everything. And now I can still use it. It's just, it looks kind of like Frankenstein, you know? So I'm trying to use some paint and stuff to get it back to looking to normal. But, you know, that's, we'll get there eventually. But yeah, I mean, it's to add to the list of things just that go wrong in my daily life. I mean, I hit my kneecap on part of the wall that juts out near my bed. So I'm gonna have a huge ass bruise there, and it does not like when I move my knee, but it's not a dislocated or kneecap or anything like that. So that's good. But yeah, alright, so I think that's gonna our break is just me complaining about things. But okay. Hope you guys had time to get like a glass of water or something. Or if you're driving, maybe get, I don't know, pick up drive-through food, or just be able to look at your surroundings and enjoy the weather. Okay, so we're gonna go into episode 2 of volume 2, also known as episode 9 of season 4. So if you've only watched episode 8, spoiler warning, don't go ahead if you haven't watched it, unless for some reason you just want to hear me talk, which, thanks. Yeah. So, here we go. Episode 2. So, in terms of, this part isn't, in chronological order yet, so I'm just gonna do the general notes again, and then we'll go in, the chronological order that I wrote these notes. So first of all, I really appreciate the avoidance of the barrier gaze trope. For those who don't know, barrier gaze is a very common trope in media. It's gotten a little less common, but still an issue, where basically it ties in with the idea that for a queer person to be present in media, it needs to be showing their suffering, or they need to end up dying in order for people to either relate or tolerate their presence. And And obviously there's other stuff that's just kind of my take on it. And my definition isn't the solid definition for what it is, obviously. But so we don't have that here because Robin lives. I know there was I personally had a tiny bit of concern when we saw the trailers and saw Robin was like stuck to a wall with Vecna's tentacles. Sounds like I'm describing a hentai. But yeah, I wasn't super concerned that would happen. Just with how how she was written in her coming out scene in season 3. So, but I'm happy, and I'm happy they gave Robin a chance with Vicky. That was very cute. And then again, Nancy, and I mentioned this in my first Stranger Things episode, I think. With Nancy being a complete badass without stripping away femininity. So again, here she's leading the charge. She's basically the leader of this whole group in Hawkins. She's the one who is taking initiative when it comes to actually approaching Vecna. She's the one who leads the charge with the shotgun. Just, I don't know, she's just an amazingly strong character. And meanwhile, she's still in an outfit that is feminine. She has a loose scarf around her neck the whole time. She still has kind of her more feminine haircut, and yeah, it's really refreshing rather than have her be stripped of the femininity in order to make her a badass, you know? So I really like that. And I also really like this ties into earlier in the season too. Just basically starting in, I think, episode 4 when Nancy and Robin team up. I really like that they show their friendship without any like sexual tension or idea. I know plenty of people will read that into it, but I personally think that they don't show any sexual tension there, and I like that because it's one of those arguments a lot of people who don't support queer people say with like, oh, you can't. And honestly, guys even say this about being friends with girls, that you can't be friends with the sex you're attracted to. That's just not possible, which is such bullshit. Like, come on, you can be friends even dogs who are who are male and female and like would perform intercourse, they can be just friends. Like, bro, come on. If a frog can be your friend, like, come on. It's stupid, basically. But I like that they do that, because it would be so easy for them to fulfill that trope of, like, oh, any female character who gets at all close to this lesbian character is now the new sexual interest, romantic interest is, that would have been so easy, but they didn't go down that course. They went more with, what actually happens. Like, I have plenty of friends who are girls who I'm not attracted to, So I really do appreciate that. And then alright. I think that is it for last general note. Is Foley artists. For those who don't know, Foley artists are essentially the ones who create all sounds that aren't picked up aren't picked up by the microphone that picks up dialogue, or create sounds that need to replace a sound that they did pick up. So this includes almost anything you could think of. It's way more than you would think. So it's something as simple as footsteps, a door creaking, a piece of metal hitting wood on the floor, everything. And they do this, they don't just work on shows like this, they work on animated shows, video games, documentaries. A lot of documentaries have Foley artists work on them, because you don't really pick up all the sounds of, like, a bird. You don't hear them hopping on snow or anything when you're actually recording them. And so they are just, I just wanted to shout them out for this, because they do amazing work in this season, trying to create sounds of things that don't exist and no one's ever heard, as well as just doing their as always great job of making us engaged through audio. I mean, if you saw a scene where they're walking down a corridor and you don't hear footsteps, you might be pulled out, Literally any noise. But Foley artists are just very underrated and underappreciated members of the, film and television docket. So I just wanted to shout them out. They're awesome. They work usually in dark rooms. But yeah, I really respect people who are able to do that. So yeah, they did a great job. All right, so now we're going into the more chronological order of notes. So, starting at the beginning of episode 9. So we have RIP Pan Am, the airline. Never got to ride it, but they mention it in like the first few seconds, so I wrote it down. And then my next note, another small thing that has no consequence. Ice machines and ice boxes. So when they're at the gas station, you can see one of those. They haven't changed in what is now like 40 years. The logo is exactly the same. The shape of the box is exactly the same. Like go to your local gas station, and like 9 times out of 10, it's that exact ice box. And almost always like a third is filled. Yeah, that's been my experience. So I just found that funny that they hadn't changed. And then... Oh, okay. So here's another note on Jason, actually. So besides that whole thing of satanic panic and displacement of blame, so I found it interesting. His reaction to Chrissy's death and, I guess, whole ordeal that she had been going through beforehand as well, versus Lucas's reaction to Max and her whole ordeal. I at least I read it as reflecting 2 major ways that people react to either a loved one's suicide or an event that was caused due to another person's depression. So it can even be hospitalization or just major breakdowns, things like that. With Lucas, it is it's him basically telling Max, like, I want to be there more, let me help, even if I don't know how. I'm trying to get to you, get through to you, that is. And so his is more of a reaction of almost grief at the isolation that she self-imposed. And then you have Jason. So his reaction. So you don't really see it as much, but one of the lines that is later in the episode that I thought really encapsulated what I'm trying to say here is... I'm just flipping to the right page. Here it is. No, this is the wrong page. Hold on. I literally just watched it like an hour ago. Hold on. Where did I write it? Oh, here it is. He says, if Chrissy wanted help, she would have come to me. So, in this case, him feeling like he wasn't there for her, instead takes the form of shifting blame, kind of what this whole thing with the satanic panic was. Shifting blame to another person, in this case it would be Eddie, as well as not really accepting that she had been going through something, because there is that beginning, that if she had, so it's him just kind of being in a state of denial about it. And so, I don't know. I feel like those are two views of these types of events that you see relatively often in the real world. So I just thought that was interesting. It's on a lighter note. For those who didn't know this, the guy at the what's the full name? It's like Surfer Boy Pizza. Yeah, Surfer Boy Pizza. Who they meet in Nevada. His credited name is just Argyle 2.0. So that's always fun. And Jonathan, I like initially lost my shit at Jonathan saying "my dude" and just like the abrupt cut to his face of him like leaning in and smiling saying it. Oh my god, I loved it. And then okay, I just have a note that just straight up says set design is immaculate. I mean, all of the sets that you see in the show have been like perfectly created. I mean, and that especially Upside Down and Mind Layer sets this season have been really, really good. Just because you feel like it's alive. It gives off that look of like you're inside a living being almost, which I think is perfect for the whole like you're being consumed by Vecna. I think that's kind of a cool thing. Okay. And then this is actually just a comment that one of my friends made. I was watching it with him, and we'd gotten to the point where they're all geared up, and he said basically that Eddie kind of, this is just a quote from him, Eddie kind of looks like an old French saint or Joan of Arc in his outfit. And he was talking about the one where his hair is kind of tied back in a bandana, the long hair is coming down. And then as well as the jacket and eventual shield and spear that he had. And honestly, I think that's true. And I like that they show him as being heroic in just his outfit, you know? So that's pretty cool. Also, I can't get over Robin's outfit with the beret during this episode. I think it looks amazing. She it's like the perfect makeshift rebel outfit. Also, I'd been seeing some posts and like opinions about Robin and whether or not she's neurodivergent coded. I am myself neurodivergent, but again, I'm not an obelisk. I'm not the one who reps everyone. Sorry. But I personally, I'm kind of unsure whether or not I think that's the case, or if she's just supposed to be like disaster lesbian, because you know, it's a common trope, but you know, it's more like a fun, good-natured trope. It comes more from like a place of love for the community than something like barrier gaze. So I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to hear people's thoughts. I don't know. I really don't. Yeah. Okay, and then the high scene. So I call it this because in the score of the actual season, the score they used here is named High, but it has, I think, like, I counted at one point, it was like 11 eyes. So it's just high, and it just keeps going. And it's a really good piece of score as well. But that scene is, oh my god, it's so cute and heartwarming, but also, you know, after it, you feel like dread. You feel immediate dread. Especially after they plan to see a movie on Friday. I mean, that was the nail in the coffin for Max, man. But it was a really well acted scene. I mean, it had no spoken dialogue, but with just really a few words and then a drawing, was able to express the core of their relationship. And just the amount of love and support they had for each other. And and the vulnerability that Lucas is able to get out of Max. So with the whole I'm happy you're here type thing. I just thought that was a really well done scene. And then this is a slight side note. So I was mainly into lighting in high school. So I did technical theater from like 7th grade till senior year. And I usually ran the light board and did some lighting design for it. And so I am not a professional or even like college trained person, but I really do appreciate lighting and how other people use it. And so the use of blues here, and then like every once in a while strong contrast with reds, I think looked very, very beautiful. And also the blue works really well for the whole cold and isolating environment. So lighting, I love it. And then with Will and Jonathan, so Mike and Elle have some cute moments, which I like because, again, it feels more like Mike is a character. And then Will and Jonathan, again, I like the message here with Jonathan not having Jonathan not like actually ask if Will is gay, but basically just say whatever is going on, like period. You are still my brother, and I will still care for you. Which I thought was nice. I like that it wasn't him asking and like him being the one to cause Will to come out. But again, it's that same issue of if it isn't explicit, then you have people who are able to argue that you're just pushing your ideas on this child, this depicted child, and all of that. And that can be used very harmfully. But in this case, I mean, it is very clear coding, at the very least. And Noah Schnapp's, the actor, has multiple times basically agreed that Will is gay, for Mike. But I don't know. It's that tricky balance, because I do like how they did it, but I also know the ramifications that can come, you know? I've been saying a lot. I should stop doing that. Or I should just do it less, I guess. Okay. Next bit. Okay. So this one is the monologue, Max's monologue. I thought Sadie Sink did an amazing job here. With the way that she portrayed the emotion, because Max as a character, especially this season, but also in previous seasons, is very emotionally repressed. She keeps everything in. She doesn't really express it facially very much or vocally. And so she bottles things in. That's what we saw in Dear Billy. And I like that they didn't forget that line that Vecna had said as Billy of wanting him dead, and her wanting to join him in death. I thought that was really good. And it was written so well. So like and she delivered it in a way that's like it's admitting your deepest, darkest shit, but also not being an emotionally open person. So it's mostly through eyes and some voice crackle, but like you can tell she's holding it back even as she's doing it. And also the way that it kind of, I guess for those who didn't understand it during like the 4th episode exactly, it fleshes out more the reason for Max's depression, and in this case, you see the roots of it being guilt over Billy, which I think it in part, I think it is to try to avoid people who are quote-unquote Billy apologists saying that he was actually a good guy, he just needed more time and be in more episodes and things like that, where you can't really argue when Max says that she wasn't sure if he deserved to be saved. Because up to that point, he had done nothing but basically control Max, emotionally, verbally, manipulate and abuse Max. Like, he had done some majorly fucked up shit. And he did save Elle in the end. He was at one point a good person and, like, kid, as we saw in the flashbacks at one point. But he wasn't a strictly good person at that point. And you could argue he wasn't good, period, at that point. But yeah, I think it's, even then, it's similar to how you see people with abusers. When it comes to either domestic violence or child abusers, a lot of the time, especially if they're family, you'll see the victim feel guilt and conflict over the fact that they still feel obligation to either protect or be with or help even their abusers due to the fact that they have that familial relationship or a romantic relationship, but also having gone through all of this this torment and abuse, they don't want anything to do with that person. They know they shouldn't be near that person, that the person is awful. And so that kind of comes up here. She's going through that conflict and that she feels that guilt because of it. Which, I don't know. I like this stuff. I like when, I guess maybe not horror, because this isn't really horror. I wouldn't classify it as that. But I like when shows that are not action either. It's like I don't know what genre to describe it as, but when shows with these types of supernatural elements and everything really are able to tie it well thematically and sometimes literally into real life situations, and I think this was handled well, because it wasn't just brushing aside everything that happened. I feel like I lost the initial point I was going for here. Either way, it was really good. And then that transition to the to when Vecna took over. I knew almost immediately when they showed the shot of like Max sitting still on the ground, and then Lucas at like an angle where he was like almost towering over, even though he was farther back in literal space. That she was already like Vecna was in her mind. But yeah, no, that was a cool transition. I like that. Okay, we're just gonna move on from that scene for now. Also, oh yeah, score being very, very good. The scene where Elle goes into Max's mind, I really like the score there. It's kind of just using bass to it's almost like you're revving up a generator. It's just kind of increasing in intensity and frequency, the bass, and then it continues throughout the scene, but almost like a heartbeat. I like that. I really like it. Then you have the whole of the Master of Puppets scene, which, for those who don't know, that's a Metallica song, and that's the song that Eddie plays on the guitar. That whole scene is really well done. Of course, the actual song ties in very well to what's going on. But also the visuals, the energy of it, and Max being chased through the house, and then also just it's a metal band. It's metal cover. Like he's in the Upside Down. He's wearing all like his gear. He's on top of a trailer with bats coming toward him. Like, come on, that's just fun. And then so for those who don't know, this was filmed during COVID, and deep in COVID. So, for Billy, played by Dacre Montgomery. Yes, that's his last name. Dacre Montgomery. he's Australian, so he wasn't able to leave the country and come to the US to film any of his parts. I think I mentioned this in the first episode on Stranger Things. But you see him again here, and it's pretty obvious that it's footage from season 3. It's during the sauna test, so he's in like a little separate room. But the way that they integrated the footage was pretty good. I thought it looked pretty natural. They were able to like change a tiny bit of the lighting on the door. And yeah, I thought it fit pretty well. Okay, so when Max is in the snowball and it cuts, snowball, and we cut back to her and she's just sitting at the table. The popping blood balloons got me the first time so bad, because it's like in the middle of a line of the song. She's just sitting there. We're expecting to like sit there and then she'll look around and something will happen, but no, they fucking blow up a balloon in our face. Yeah, so that's fun. And then, oh god, okay, yeah, so Gaten Matarazzo, who plays Dustin, super underrated actor. He was amazing. He's always been perfect as Dustin. He was amazing here, with just the desperation when it comes to Eddie. And oh my god, I'll get more into that in a little bit. And then, should I go over this now? Or should I wait? I'll wait to go over this a little bit. Okay, so then, I also have a note. So, when Steve, Nancy, and Robin are being choked in the Creel house in the Upside Down. I mean, first of all, they get choked for like 2 monologues, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's just kind of funny. But also, the face that Steve makes when he's being choked, I just found really funny. It looks kind of like the Pog face. So yeah. And then I have, the use of Dream a Little Dream, when it becomes distorted and Vecna appears behind Max. I like that they cut the song off at, it saying, say nighty night, and the line is say nighty night and kiss me, but it stops at that. Because, that's what's happening. She's gotta say nighty night. But, to life. And then also another actor, Caleb McLaughlin, doing a great job. He did really well in the parts with Jason. I really like the I guess it's not a monologue, but like a mini one, where he's talking about wanting to having wanted to be like Jason, and then I think the line is like, but Normal's a raging psychopath. I liked that. Okay, and then another unintentionally hilarious bit is after Elle appears in Max's mind. Vecna's like going towards Elle. Max is running up behind him with a wooden stake, and then gets like force thrown to the side. It's a really tense moment. It's supposed to be a tense moment, but between the image of Max running up with a wooden stake to this like fleshy abomination of a man, and then being tossed like a rag doll, making a little noise, and then just flying off screen until like the next cut. I don't know. It was, and there's like no music. It's just really funny. It doesn't like ruin the tension of the scene. It just kind of distracted me a lot. And then, acting shout out to Joseph Quinn, who plays Eddie. And there's the great line during that bit with Elle and Max in Max's mind. I piggybacked from a pizza dough freezer line. I thought that was a good way to give a tiny bit of levity without it feeling forced or out of place. Because it gets a lot worse afterwards, in terms of how our characters are doing. And I also like that Elle's speaking pattern of speech this season is a lot less truncated. Before, it was very choppy, which, yeah, it made sense for, like, first 2 seasons. She hadn't ever been to school. She previously had a seizure. She grew up in a lab, like, all that stuff. That makes sense. Season 3, we started to see her speaking more normally, but it's still pretty truncated. I think if it was still the case with this season, it would have been too weird, especially, again, this isn't their fault, but because of COVID, they look a lot older. So I'm happy that they kind of did away with that. She still has kind of, like, specific intonation that makes it sound not exactly normal, but I think that works better than having her speak in, like, very short sentences all the time. Okay, and then more score that I liked for Eddie's Last Stand. Color grading. So another element of film that not everyone knows about is color grading. So when they go and film something, it'll come out in a way that typically requires some color grading. So color grading is going in and making sure the saturation of the shot is right, making sure that it doesn't look too saturated, but also bring out certain colors more. So, like, for example, if in a shot you wanted the green to pop more in a tree, that involves color grading. And so you see it especially more obviously used whenever there is a transition to like Vecna's mind or something being influenced by Vecna. So, for example, again in Dear Billy, when the sky turns blue, at any point when Vecna is possessing Max, essentially, when the sky turns blue, when it suddenly becomes night, you can tell in that transition when it's happening, that is color grading. So that transition in tones, it's the same footage. The footage is consistent. It's just the color grading changes. So that, I thought that work was really well done, especially with how intense a lot of the colors are in this last episode, between like Snowball and then the mind layer and everything, and all the scenes with just blue lighting, essentially. Yeah, they did a really good job. Okay. And then this is a legitimate question. I don't know if just my computer or TV or internet has an issue with buffering the amount of red that's in the mind layer. But for me, like the background always looks kind of pixelated and blurry. Well, maybe not blurry, more pixelated than blurry, like grainy almost. And I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, because earlier and I think still, they use compressed, crunchy audio on purpose for some of Vecna's sounds and score involving him and stuff, which I think works really well. But I don't know if this is intentional. It could be. It could also just be Netflix having an issue, or just my equipment having an issue, which I wouldn't be surprised by, just because of how intense the color is. And then a lot of people aren't into the idea that Vecna essentially made the Upside Down what it is and the Mind Flayer and everything. I'm kind of ambivalent to it. I think it's fine. I don't really have a strong opinion about it. Yeah, no, I think it's just fine. And then, oh, I forgot I'd written this. I have 2 other new band names that I'd come up with during this episode. So the first one is in my notes right now, is Chrissy's Desiccated Corpse. And then later in my notes, it's Max's Vacuous Mind. So my new band names, hope you like them. We'll just be playing the screams of people the entire time. So going back to Vecna, from what I understand, I think that Vecna, he's one / Henry is both like inhabits that corporeal Vecna form, and then also the Mind Flayer. I think he can like he can kind of control it and like possess it. So, but I don't know if that's actually the case, or if he's just like he doesn't actually inhabit it, he just controls it, you know? So I'm not really sure, because that would change, that could change a lot in terms of how season 5 could pan out. And then yep, poor Max going through so much. I liked Mike's monologue. He really did feel like Mike again. And it gave Finn Wolfhard a chance to like actually do something and like really do some acting. Like not do some acting, but you know what I mean. Like to actually to be challenged by the material and like do something more more emotional, I guess. Okay, and then we get to Max's bones cracking. I was super surprised that they actually showed like the bones cracking on screen. I had a feeling she was going to die ultimately, throughout like the whole thing. So I wasn't surprised that happened, but I thought they would be like, they showed us Lucas's reaction, like horrified or something, or we hear it but don't see it. But no, they just straight up showed a main character's body get fucked up like that. So and in this universe a child's, so that's fucky. But I think it works to the benefit of the episode, and because it emphasizes the stakes of what's happening. Like it's literally life and death. Like, plus it also, yeah, I know there was the whole like Game of Thrones effect that was going on with people saying like, oh, all these characters are gonna die, or oh, I'm gonna be disappointed when like no characters die. It's like, we don't need an all-out massacre. But I'm happy that they didn't like wave away the actual stakes that were at hand, you know? So I'm happy that they showed the consequences of what was going on. Yeah, and then Nancy and Steve and Robin finally stopped choking. It's been like 30 minutes. The Hopper picking up the sword. So that was kind of cheesy, the fact that it was like this golden sword, and it resembled the one from like Lord of the Rings, I think. But you know what? It also leads to him like decapitating the Demogorgon, which I thought was pretty cool, so I'll give that a pass. And the scene with running up that hill, the remix version, was amazing. I really like the remix, especially it using the theme song as the bass line. They actually go really well together, surprisingly. And then the repetition of the word building to literally, as the song is building, multiple times. And you could draw some conclusion that like the emphasis on making a deal with God, being like Elle bringing back Max's body, but at the cost of her mind or soul type thing. And then, or just the whole if only I could, implying it's already too late to take action. Which, I mean, that one makes more sense in terms of trying to stop Vecna. It's already too late. And their efforts are somewhat in vain now. But, yeah. Oh god, and then Eddie, yeah, so Eddie's death didn't break me, but Dustin's sobbing over his body did. Like, that broke me. That got me to tear up at 4 a.m. when I was watching it, the first time. Yeah, and it still, like, makes me, like, feel deep emotion, but not, like, actually tear up. And then also, Max being scared to die also broke me. So, obviously it gives some big, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark vibes. But I think that, I don't know, I've always been drawn to media that makes me feel deep, like intense, legitimate emotion. And so I really like these scenes, and it's, I guess it probably is kind of weird, but I like going back to these types of scenes and watching them kind of again and again, and I guess analyzing why I feel this emotion, like what's causing me to within that scene, what the actors are doing that makes me feel like that, and then also just to experience it again. I don't know. It's probably kind of weird, but you know, that's what I do. So, and it makes me really appreciate the acting, in those scenes. So, yeah. But oh god, yeah, no, not being able to see anything, not being able to feel anything, knowing you're dying, after having, you know, had Vecna go fuck your mind, that's legitimate. That's horrifying. But yeah, and then Lucas's line of Erica help also, just the amount of emotion in just the voice is amazing. Okay, we're almost there, guys. I promise, we're almost there. So then after she does die, Rip Max, the 4 chimes. I like that they didn't wait like they didn't wait 5 minutes. I feel like a lot of shows and movies where like something happens after this one person dies type thing. They show the death and then people mourn for like a good 5 to 10 minutes, and then the thing actually happens. So I like that. I like that it happened pretty soon after she actually died. It was probably only like a minute. But it was, what I wrote down, so perfect and devastating. The realization, all of them having the realization they failed, as well as the implications of it meaning that Max is now dead. And the implications for the future of Hawkins and the world. So that mixed with just the sound design of the chime of the clock again, that I can't get over the sound design of the clock. That's perfect, the chimes. Okay. And then I got some good old pleasure out of Jason being ripped apart. So rip him literally. And then somebody pointed this out to me, and I don't know if everyone noticed it, but I thought it was cool. If you look at the shot of Hawkins after all the gates had opened and collided, and then you look at an image of the grandfather clock that was shown earlier in the season, they have the same cracks. So we have one coming from north, south, east, west, and in that pattern, there's like a slight curve, like 2 curves on each of them or something. But it either matches or like just resembles it, but it's enough that it was definitely purposeful. And then, alright, so then on to Elle's actions. So, again, this is one that a lot of people didn't like, or found that it took away from the impact. I personally don't see it that way. So I see it more as especially, and this is taking into account knowing the aftermath where Elle goes into Max's mind and finds nothing. So I honestly believe that that's a fate worse than death at this point. And it is still just as, if not more impactful, her whole death, now that Elle, using her powers, trying to do everything she can, her powers have solved all the issues previously, it couldn't bring her friend back, who died because she wasn't able to fight back fast enough or use her powers against Vecna fast enough, things like that. I think it's going to play into some major character points in season 5 for Elle, because this is, as stated by Mike, this is her first loss. He was saying it more in terms of losing against Vecna, but first major loss that she could attribute to her own abilities and her own actions. So I think there's going to be a lot of I hope there's going to be a lot of exploration of that type of guilt that has now been seeded. Okay, and the music in that scene as well, when she is bringing her back, I like a lot. And then we get to the time skip. So the 2-day time skip. I really wish there wasn't one. I felt that the first time I watched it. I feel that now still. Because there's so much that I wish we could have seen. And I get it. I get that it's to get the California crew home. Like, that logistically, I understand. But I really wish we got to see the Hawkins crew deal with, like, the immediate aftermath. Getting back out of the Upside Down. Finding out what exactly happened. Trying to navigate now that there's these giant holes in the earth. Or not holes, canyons in the earth. And having to emotionally deal with the aftermath, whether it be being shell-shocked or it's breaking down. Well, maybe not breaking down. I mean, it I don't know. It sounds like I'm making it sound like I just want to see all of them be miserable, but that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, like, I want to see how they got back to the point where they could get to their houses, because, you know, Hawkins is kind of divided up now, physically, but also just the ramifications. It's the stakes were made, the tension's high, everything that could go wrong just happened. So now I want to see how our characters deal with it, rather than 2 days later where everything feels way too hopeful. I mean, obviously, things suck for Max, and they show that. But, and the Upside Down's coming to Hawkins in the end. But even then, between the music, the visuals, the dialogue, everything feels way too hopeful, and way too much like the ending of, I don't know, like a superhero movie, where it's not the ending of Infinity War. It's like the ending of Endgame. But, I don't know, where, like, there's a threat on the horizon, but we did it. We beat the issue. We are done. We did the big thing type vibe. That's what I get from it. And it just doesn't match the previous bit. It doesn't match the stakes. It doesn't match the intensity. It doesn't match the actual events that are occurring. So, I mean, I wish that instead maybe the California crew were informed of everything by Elle, and then seeing them reconcile that the fact that they weren't there in Hawkins to help, or that they themselves, like, couldn't really do anything to help. Or just, like, them trying to find a payphone to even just call their family. That would have been cool. Also, why is no one giving Dustin a crutch? Like, he's limping. He fucking, like, destroyed his ankle or leg or something. And he's limping all around, and no one gives him a crutch or a leg brace. He's visited the hospital, and, like, the makeshift makeshift, like, pop-up tent hospital in the high school gym. No one gives this man a crutch. And then, there was a cool little Easter egg. So Lucas, in the hospital scene, was reading from The Talisman, which is a book by, I believe, Stephen King. And so the Duffer Brothers, who were the creators of Stranger Things and are executive producers, are actually making have started up a production company now to make, like, kind of similar works along the lines of Stranger Things, at least in terms of tone. And so one of the ones that's confirmed is an adaptation of The Talisman. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then, I made a note of this again with the Max thing. 'Cause some people basically said, so she's just gonna come back. It's empty. That mind space is empty because she's in a coma. But it actually has been confirmed by the Duffers in an interview that she is, as obvious, all of her bones are broken. All of her limbs are very broken, but also that she's in a state of being brain dead. Now, this, I interpret it as not literally brain dead, as in like her brain is physically, chemically fucked, but that she is in a state of not being able to be mentally present, because her mind is gone. It is now with Vecna. So that leaves the door open for a lot of possible plot points. I personally think it's probably going to go with either Max's body being a physical representation of Elle's guilt over her inability to save everyone this season, or it may be used in a similar way to Billy in season 3 as kind of a, for lack of better terms, meat puppet for the big baddie. So those are my thoughts for where that could go for season 5 and how that might contribute. And then we do have the cute moment between Robin and Vicky when they're at the gym making sandwiches. Side note, in that scene, you see many loaves of bread, and on the thing it says 29 cents. I would love to buy a loaf of bread that's 29 cents these days. Like, what the fuck? Inflation sucks. I hate it. Oh yeah, I wrote down, should I watch Fast Times? Should I watch Fast Times? I know nothing about the film other than that one timestamp having boobies, and that's it. But one thing I did note about that scene is they use that same kids/teens motif for the scene where Robin and Vicky are interacting, well, at least towards the end. And so I really like that they did, because this is one of the few normal teen things that any of them is able to do still. And it's a very small moment of not childhood innocence, but like teen, that's, you know what I'm talking about, that kind of like state when you're a teen where it's not innocence, but it's learning about yourself and your surroundings a bit more. Not with naivete, but with more optimism almost. Yeah, so I like that they used that motif there for the score. And then again, we see the eulogy motif used when Dustin is speaking with Mr. Munson. And that whole scene was very powerful as well. Again, Gaten Matarazzo's acting was spot on. Oh yeah, no, that one hurt. And then again, lighter note. In the scene where they are cleaning up Hopper's cabin, keep an eye on Mike, and then also where the pile of leaves he's sweeping is, because he literally he takes the broom and just sweeps the leaves further into the house rather than out the door into the woods. And then we see them again, him and Will, like on a couch, and in the corner of the screen you can see that huge pile of leaves now in the middle of the room against a TV. Like, not even helpful at all. So I found that just really funny. And then, of course, you have Elle and Hopper reuniting, which I love. I love their dynamic. Thought it was very, very sweet. And the whole stole your look and looks bitchin' type thing, that was cute. And then my last written note of the season, I decided to like look in at the credits just to see if like anything was there, and they made the weirdest choice I've seen in a while for credits. So the font and the opacity of the actual text of the credits, so it's white, and it's basically full opacity. It's like 100%. And they have the Stranger Things 4 logo, the one with the 4 over the middle of the word Stranger Things, slowly grow from like a speck to filling up the screen, but it's like a grainy version. Like, it's a grainy version of the logo. It has like that effect going down it. But the text that's covering it, like the text that's the actual credits, is full opacity, clean looking, like Roman font, like Times New Roman font text. So it just looks so out of place. I don't know. It just looks really strange to me. I don't know. Oh, it's just weird. But that is the end of my written notes. Trying to think if there's other things I want to mention. I mean, I guess just overall for this whole season, I really liked it. It definitely has some flaws. It has some major pacing issues through the whole season, not just volume 2. But honestly, I've liked it. I like that's kind of a return to form, both aesthetically and tone-wise, to seasons 1 and 2. Season 3, I enjoy it still. I like the whole Billy like flayed subplot a lot, and I do like a lot of the moments, even in the lighter bits that feel almost out of place for the show. I do like the character interactions a lot in the music, but it definitely felt strange for the series in terms of what already was established. But yeah, no, good season. Score is always great. CGI was good. COVID definitely impacted the production and the actors, how they look. But I think with what they had, they did a really good job. And in terms of, what's supposed to be the main thing that we talk about on this podcast, in terms of the queer depictions as well as mental health depictions, I think that the way that they show and explore mental health in the season is really interesting, because they haven't really done that in the previous seasons. So I like that they really dig into it, and they also are able to use those supernatural elements that are already commonplace in the show to further make almost the feeling of those of like depression and those mental health issues, make that feeling tangible to an audience. And I like the hopeful message that they still have at the end of episode 4, as well as I still like the ending, while a dire one. I think it still works for the depiction they're trying to go for with Max and the metaphor and everything. As for the queer representation, I think it was still well done. On the Robin front, I think it was done really, really well. I love her and Steve's dynamic, and Steve as a perfect ally, essentially. Never outing her, being supportive, both of them joking about relationships, all of that. And then, of course, being friends with Nancy without being romantically or sexually attracted, as well as the whole thing with Vicky, her style, immaculate. And Will, as I said, it's a hard balance. It's a hard balance. I like how it was written. I am unsure of the real world usage of how it was depicted, I suppose. I think the depiction itself is good. I just think the way it can be used by other people is what the issue is. Yeah, because even this is just now going off on a tangent that I apparently started like 40 minutes ago. Because I'm like a person who's on Reddit I enjoy just like popping into different subreddits. I'll ask some questions about some stuff that I do, like I like putting together old technology and stuff, or just shows I like. So that includes Stranger Things. And so there was a lot of backlash against people talking about Will being gay for a while. There was a lot of people saying, and I mean, they would always include the straight couples in it, but they didn't actually, they didn't mean the straight couples. If, like, it was obvious. They would say that, oh, it's gross how all these adults and people are shipping these children and, like, forcing a sexuality on them. They're teenagers, they shouldn't have to, they're like 15, they shouldn't have to know what they are, like, you don't deal with it when you're that young, blah blah. It was very thinly veiled homophobia for sure, because nobody did that when it was the earlier seasons. Nobody did that even in season 3, when, you know, one of the subplots is just Lucas and Max, and then Elle and Mike being couples. That's it, you know? So, yeah, so I don't know how that's gonna be taken by those types of people, and what effect that may have. But I still think it was a good depiction. And yeah, I guess that is the end of my episode. This went on a lot longer than I thought it would. But yeah, so this has been my discussion of Stranger Things, season 4, episodes 8 and 9. As always, and mentioned at the beginning of the episode, you can contact us at queerlyapodcast.com, or on our Twitter at queerly_podcast. Let us know if you have any comments, questions, topics you'd like us to talk about, specific pieces of media, anything like that. As well as you can find us on many platforms, just straight up RSS. You can find us on Deezer, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, I believe. We are on Amazon Music. I tried getting Spotify to work. I don't know if we're on Spotify, if it's gone through. Pandora, we aren't able to get on. But, you know, we're on most sites at this point. And the RSS website, also, just you can go straight from there, no matter what platform you're on. And yeah, I think that covers everything I need to cover. Let us know if you listen this far, and if you feel like it, let us know what you think of the little jingle. It's probably going to be changed, or at least altered, by the next episode, but I thought I'd just put something there, make it feel more like I have my shit together. But yeah, so, I mean, I hope everybody stays safe, enjoys the beautiful summer air, and yeah, go off, be well, stay queer, stay healthy. Alright, we'll see you next time.